Fair and Balanced. We bring in Democratic Congressman Joe Crowley, who joins us. He's the chairman of the Democratic Caucus and a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Liz. Great to be with you again.
All right. We hear that you and Republicans, at least on this committee, are actually playing well together in the sandbox. Can you give us some clarity on how well?
Well, I don't want to, go too far here in suggesting we're in a sandbox together. We did have a meeting today, a joint meeting of Democrats and Republicans on the House Ways and Means Committee with Prime Minister Trudeau when he was laying out where he wanted to see the NAFTA 2 go and recognizing that we're, as you said earlier, they're at the fourth stage of negotiations right now here in the D.C. area here in Virginia. To negotiate those right now.
Well, hold on one second. I'm absolutely going to talk about NAFTA and Justin Trudeau, but my question really was, how well are you getting along with the Ways and Means Committee, Democrats with Republicans, and whether you see some ability to cross lines and link arms on at least certain parts of this tax reform plan?
Well, this actually is the first time that we've met this year, quite frankly, in a bipartisan way outside of the committee itself. We did have a brief meeting earlier with Kevin Brady, the chair of the committee, that being the Democratic Caucus, to discuss tax reform. But in that brief meeting, Kevin let us know that they were going to use reconciliation, which is a tool to limit the power of the minority in the Senate. Reconciliation requires only a 50+1 vote in the Senate.
Understood.
Therefore, saying they don't need Democratic votes to pass it. And there really has been very little intercourse between House Democrats and Republicans on the issue of tax reform. There was a meeting at the White House last week of some members of the House Democratic Ways and Means Committee. I was not one of them.
Okay.
With the president.
Here's, with all due respect, all I heard leading up to this, going back 6 months, was Chuck Schumer, Senate leadership, at least for the Democrats, saying the red line before we even sit at the table will be that there are no tax cuts for the wealthy. So far, when various bipartisan economic outfits look at this, it appears that there will be a tax hike, probably, that many wealthy, depending on what you score as wealthy, will pay more in taxes. So shouldn't that then clear the runway for at least some discussion? That was the Democrats' red line.
Well, I think it depends on who you listen to and who you.
I listened to Chuck Schumer multiple times.
I think that the red line was what Chuck Schumer said. Many economists are saying that 80% of the cuts in this tax proposal by the White House would benefit the wealthiest 1% in our country. So it really reducing the marginal rate from 39.6% to 5% is a tax cut for the wealthiest in the United States. And I think it is really not distributionally sound. The White House last week could not guarantee that the middle class would not see an increase in taxes.
We are about to speak in, I want to say, 42 minutes with House Ways and Means Chair Kevin Brady. And if you could say one thing to him right now across our airwaves, what would it be about this?
I would say, Kevin, can't we have a tax bill that would actually reduce the tax burden to the middle class and to those who are trying to make it in this country? What we're really worried about here, Liz, is that we have this increased pressure on our nation's deficit, and then folks are going to come along and say, hey, what do we do about it? And then we start cutting things like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, and that's what Democrats would be vehemently opposed to.
Okay. To NAFTA very quickly. I was at an event during the United Nations Week about 2 weeks ago where Justin Trudeau did speak, the Atlantic Council dinner, and when talking about NAFTA, and here's a picture from it, it was on the Intrepid, right on the coast of the Hudson here. When I was really interested when he immediately said, we can't deal with our grandparents or our parents' NAFTA. It does have to be tweaked. What's the number one tweak you would like to see of modernization of NAFTA as these two discuss it?
I agree. I think that NAFTA, as was proposed and passed prior to my coming to Congress, wasn't a good bill, wasn't a good trade agreement. I think one thing we need to see is forcing the increasing of wages in places like Mexico. Mexico pays penny on the dollars when it comes to automakers in comparison to the United States, puts the United States at a very unfair competitive disadvantage. And I think that Prime Minister Trudeau understands that. I think what he's talking about is increasing pressure on the United States, on right-to-work states, on the environment, and really staying within the framework of the Paris Accords. I think that's what Prime Minister Trudeau is also pushing.